was playing, Lane.
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I'm very sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I keep the science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the science of life, did you get the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
By the way, Lane, I noticed from your books that on Thursday night when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, 8 bottles of champagne are marked as having been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that in a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. I've often found in married households, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens! Is marriage so demoralizing as that?
Oh, I believe it is a very pleasant state, sir. I have not had much experience of it myself, up to the moment. I've only been married once, and that was a consequence to a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't know that I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
No, sir. It is not a very interesting subject. I never think of it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem rather lax. Really, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, then what on earth is the use of them? They seem, as a class, to have absolutely no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing calling, sir.
How are you, my dear Earnest? What brings you to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, aren't you?
I believe it is customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours, neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your pot of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your country, is it not?
Shropshire, yes, of course. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta. And Gwendolyn.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
Yes, it is, but I must say, I don't know if Aunt Augusta will quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear boy, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I have come up to town expressly to propose to her.
Oh, I thought you said you would come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I don't see anything really romantic in proposing. It's very romantic to be in love. But there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal, why one might be accepted. One usually is, I'm told. And then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
There is no use speculating on the subject. Divorces were made in heaven. Please, don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
That is a different matter entirely. She is my aunt. Here, have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Well, my dear boy, you need not eat as if you were going to have it all. You act as if you were married to her already. You were not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It is a great truth. It accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear boy, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you must clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean by Cecily, Algy? I don't know anyone of the name Cecily.
Bring that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room the last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you had let me know. I was writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I very nearly offered a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
No point in offering one now if the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. But it makes no matter, for now that I read the inscription, I finally think it is yours at all.
Of course it's mine. You have seen me with it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is very ungentlemanly to read a private cigarette case.
It is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. More than half of modern culture is based on what one shouldn't read.
Yes, I'm aware of the fact, and I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily, and you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Oh, your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too, lives in Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algy.
Yes, but why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily, with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is the thing an aunt may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think every aunt should be the same as your aunt. That is absurd. Good heavens, give me back my cigarette case!
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily, with her fondest love, to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why that aunt, no matter what her size may be, should refer to her own nephew as her uncle is quite beyond me. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Earnest.
It isn't Earnest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Earnest. I've introduced you to everyone as Earnest. You answered the name of Earnest. You look as if your name were Earnest. You were the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It is perfectly absurd you're saying your name isn't Earnest. It's on your cards. Here's one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany West. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest if you ever try to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
Well, my name is Earnest in town, and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come on, boy. You had much better have the whole thing out at once.
My dear fellow, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It's very vulgar to talk like a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
That is exactly what dentists always do. Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I might add that I have always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean, Bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to tell me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation, and pray, make it improbable.
There is nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is quite ordinary. Old Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle, from motives of respect you could not possibly appreciate, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Yes, and where is this place in the country, by the way?
It is nothing to you. You are not going to be invited. And I'll tell you candidly, it is not in Shropshire.
I suspected as much, my dear fellow. I have Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
Ah, my dear fellow, I don't think you'll be able to understand my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position as guardian, one has to assume a high moral tone on all subjects. It is one's duty to do so, and as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce to either one's health or one's happiness, in order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Earnest. Lives in the Albany and gets in the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. What you are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you were a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I ever saw.
What Bunburyist? What do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother named Earnest, so that you might be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable, permanent invalid called Bunbury, so that I might go down to the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury and his extraordinary bad health, for instance, why I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's, for I have really been engaged with Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know. You are absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It's most foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin, I dine there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as a member of the family, and I'm sent down with either no woman at all, or 2. In the third place, I know perfectly well whom she will place me next to tonight. She will place me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. Indeed, it's not even decent. And that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad, it's just washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunburying. I want to tell you the rules.
I am not a Bunburyist. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I am going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I shall kill him in any case. Cecily has become a little too interested in him, which is rather a bore. Yeah, anyway, I will get rid of my brother Earnest, and I strongly advise you to do the same with your your invalid friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you ever get married, which seems to me extremely problematic, you will be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a most tedious time of it.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, she's the only girl that I ever saw that I would marry, and I certainly wouldn't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That's nonsense. Don't try to be cynical. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
It isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. That must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes, so that you might have an opportunity to propose to Gwendolyn, may I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
Yes, I suppose so.
Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about their meals. It's so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I'm feeling feeling quite well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not the same thing. In fact, those two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart, aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
I hope I'm not that, for it would leave no room for developments. And I intend to develop in many directions.
Oh, I'm sorry we're a little late, Algernon. I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I haven't been there since her poor husband's death. I have never seen a woman look so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have some tea and some of that nice cucumber sandwich you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come over here and sit with me?
Thanks, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane! Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers at the market this morning, sir. I went down twice this morning.
No cucumbers.
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers in the market. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some croquets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed colour. For what cause, I of course cannot say. Oh, thank you. I have a wonderful treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She is such a nice woman, and so attentive to her husband. It is delightful to watch.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. That will put my table completely out. Your uncle will have to dine upstairs alone. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a tremendous disappointment. But the fact is, I've just had a telegram to tell me that my poor friend Mr. Bunbury is very ill again, and they seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Oh yes, Mr. Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury decide whether he should live or die. This shilly-shallying around the question is absurd. Nor do I approve in any way of this modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to encourage in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I keep telling this to your poor uncle, but he doesn't seem to take notice. Well, as far as any improvement in his own illness are concerned. But I should be much obliged, Algernon, if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me if he would be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday. For I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation. Particularly at the end of the season, when everybody has said practically everything that they are going to say, which in most cases is not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious. And I think I can promise you he'll be quite all right by Saturday. Now, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen, and if one plays bad music, well, people don't talk. But I'll run over the program I've drawn up if you'll kindly come with me to the next room for a moment.
Oh, thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after some explanations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think they are improper. So they either look shocked, which is vulgar, or they laugh, which is worse. German is a thoroughly respectable language. Indeed, I believe it is so. Gwendolyn, you a cup of tea?
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray, don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
I wish to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Maman has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any other girl I have met. Since I met you.
I'm quite aware of the fact. I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love him.
You really love me, Gwendolyn. Happy you've made me.
Oh, my own Earnest.
Really, Gwendolyn. You don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, I know it is. Supposing it was something else, you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, I don't much care about the name Earnest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. Oh, it has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Really, Gwendolyn, I must say there are lots of other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? No, there's very little music in the name Jack. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I've known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. And besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to be lost.
Oh, married, Mr. Worthing.
Yes, surely you know that I love you, and you led me to believe that you aren't entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you have not proposed to me yet. Nothing at all has been said about marriage. The subject has not even been touched on.
May I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it's only fair to tell you quite frankly, beforehand, that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
Well, you know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
how long you've been about it. I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
My own one, you're the only one I've ever loved in all my life.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. Oh, what wonderfully brown eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite brown. I hope you will always look at me just like that. Especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthy! Rise, sir, from that silly recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
I must beg you to retire, Mamma. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished with what, may I ask?
I am engaged, Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, but you are not engaged to anyone. When you become engaged to somebody, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a girl as a surprise. Pleasant or unpleasant as it may be, it is hardly a matter that she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have some questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. And while I make such inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait below for me in the carriage.
Mamma.
In the carriage, Gwendolen? Gwendolen, the carriage!
Mamma.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not on my list of eligible young men. Although it is the same list that dear Duchess Bolton has. We are working together, in fact. I am, however, willing to enter your name, should your answers be what a truly affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
Ah, I'm glad to hear it. Every man should have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
Oh, that's a good age to get married at. It is in my opinion that when a man desires to get married, he should either know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. Yes, I don't approve of tampering with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. You touch it and the bloom is gone. This whole theory behind modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, the education process has no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove to be a serious danger to the upper classes, and possibly lead to acts of violence in Rome Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties exacted from one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position, but prevents one from giving it up. And that is all that can be said about land.
I do own a house in the country with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, but I don't depend on it for my primary income, no. In fact, the poachers are the only ones that can make anything out of it.
Yes. A country house? How many bedrooms does it? We'll clear that up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A simple, unspoiled girl like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Yes, I own a house on Belgrave Square, but it is let out by the year to Lady Bloxham. I can get it back at any time at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She goes about very little. She is a lady considerably advanced in years.
Oh, but nowadays that is no guarantee for respectability of character. What number in Belgrade Square?
149.
Oh, the unfashionable side. I knew there was something. Although that could be easily altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Well, both, if necessary, I presume. And now on to my matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
Both? Mr. Worthing, to lose one parent would be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. What did your father do? Well, he was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers would call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks of aristocracy?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I lost both my parents, and it would be near the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't really know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Thomas Cadu, a very charitable and kindly gentleman, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have in his pocket a first-class ticket to Worthing. Worthing is a place in Sussex, a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag, a rather large brown leather handbag with handles to it. An ordinary handbag, really.
In what locality did this Mr. John James Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is in Mateo! I must confess, Mr. Worthing, that I am somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt toward the ordinary decencies of family life. And it reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that meant to. As far as the particular locality of where the handbag was found, a cloakroom, a railway station, might serve to conceal essential indiscretion. And yes, indeed, probably has been used for that purpose before, but it is hardly an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
May I ask you what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say that I'd do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you to find some relations as soon as possible, and make a definite effort to produce, at least at any rate, one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has this to do with me? You could hardly imagine that I, or Lord Bracknell, would allow our only daughter, brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good day, Mr. Worthing.
Doughty! Don't play that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are!
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you? I know there's a way she has. She's always refusing people. I think it's most ill-natured of her.
Gwendolyn is as bright as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother, He's unbearable. I've never met such a Gorgon. I really don't know what a Gorgon is like, but I am sure Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she is a monster, without being a myth, which is rather unfair. I beg your pardon, Algy. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own aunt in that way before you.
Oh, my dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only thing that makes me able to stand at all. Relations are nothing but a very tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge about how to live, nor the slightest inclination about when to die.
That is nonsense.
It isn't.
It is. I don't want to argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things.
Well, that is exactly what things were originally made for.
If I thought that, I'd die. You don't think there's any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years, do you?
All women become like their mothers. That's their tragedy. And no man does, that's his.
Is that clever?
It isn't. It's quite true and perfectly phrased, as any observation in civilized life ought to be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everyone nowadays is clever. You can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
We have.
Oh, I'd extremely like to know what they talk about.
The fools? About the clever people, of course.
What fools?
Did you tell Gwendolyn the truth about your being Earnest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to flirt with her, if she's pretty, and with someone else if she's plain.
That is nonsense.
So what about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest?
Oh, by the end of the week I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. It's the sort of thing that runs in families. You would much better say a severe chill.
You are sure a severe chill is not hereditary?
Of course it isn't.
Very well then. My poor brother Ernest is carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill. Yes, that gets rid of him.
But I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little bit too much interested in your poor brother Ernest. Won't she feel his loss a good deal?
Oh, that is all right. Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention at all in her lessons.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
I will take very good care that you never do. She is excessively pretty and only just 18.
Well, have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
One doesn't blurt these things out to people. Gwendolyn and Cecily are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. I'll bet you anything you like that half an hour after they've met, they'll be calling each other sister.
Women only do that after they've called each other a great deal of other things first. Now, my dear boy, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we really must go and dress. Do you know it's nearly 7?
Oh, it is always almost nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
Never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theatre?
Oh, no, listening.
Let us go to the club.
Oh, I hate talking.
We might trot round to the Empire at 10.
Oh, I can't bear looking at things. It is so silly.
Then what shall we do?
Nothing.
It's dreadfully hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind hard work when there is no definite object of any kind.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. Something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude toward life. You're not quite old enough to do that.
Gwendolyn?
Oh, Ernest, I fear we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over them, I lost at the age of 30. Although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she would possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Gwendolyn, darling.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma with unpleasing comments, has naturally served the deeper fibers of my nature. Oh, your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. So, your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Waltham, Hertfordshire.
There's a postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algy may turn round now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
Oh. Well, you may also ring the bell.
You will let us into the carriage, won't you?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going bunburying.
Yes, sir.
You may put up my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I've ever cared for in my life. What are you so amused at?
I'm just a little worried about poor Bunbury is all.
You don't take care. Your friend Bunbury is going to get you into a serious scrape one of these days.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only things in life that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily. Surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather Bolton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it at page 15. We'll repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is, that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious I think he cannot think quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanour is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I am sure you certainly would. You know, German and geology and things of that kind influence a man very much.
But even I could produce an effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I'm not sure I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favour of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly happen. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sent us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it seems very unfair. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. To your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
Oh, but I see it did Dr. Chasuble is coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble! This is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I've not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking of that and not of my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you're not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
Oh, that is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not yet returned from town?
We do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely. Drawn from the pagan authors, I shall see you both, no doubt, evensong.
I think I will have a stroll with you, dear doctor. I find I have a headache after all. And what might do it good?
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Oh, Cecily, you read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee you may omit. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic sides.
Horrid political economy. Horrid geography. Horrid German.
Mr. Earnest Worthing has just driven over from the station. Brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing before the Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother! Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very much disappointed. I told him you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was quite anxious to speak to you, privately, for a moment.
Tell Mr. Ernest Worthing to come out here. And I suppose you'd better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I am so afraid he will look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I'm a little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If not, then you have surely been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, of course I have been rather reckless.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Yes. Now that you mention the subject, I suppose I have been very bad in my own small way.
You shouldn't be so proud of that. Although I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
Well, it is much pleasanter being here with you, cousin Cecily.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business engagement that I am anxious to miss.
Oh, couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
The appointment is in London.
Oh, well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But I still think we'd better wait until Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle is sending you to Australia.
Australia? Well, I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the accounts I have received of the next world and Australia are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
Well, I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You are looking a little worse.
That is because I'm hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A martial meal?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think you right you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Then Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that any sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
Ah,
You are too much alone, Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
Well, that is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to the present day. And you don't seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often I'm told not even to her.
Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Worthing?
I have returned sooner than expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope all is well.
Oh, my dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts of extravagance.
Still living his life of pleasure?
dead.
Your brother Earnest dead?
Quite dead.
Oh, what a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. You have at least the consolation of knowing you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Yeah, poor Earnest, he had many faults, but it is a sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad in Paris. I received a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Oh, was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Oh, charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
He seemed to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
Paris? I fear that does not point to any very serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. Joyful, or as in the present circumstance, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. Oh, the last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent Among the Upper Classes. The bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. You know how to christen, I suppose? I mean, you are continually christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but They don't seem to know where thrift is.
But is there a particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I understand, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not really child, dear doctor. You see, I would like to be christened myself. This afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I didn't remember anything about it.
But do you have any grave doubts upon the subject?
I certainly intend to have. Of course, if you think it would bother you at all, or if you think I'm a little too old.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
Oh, you need have no apprehension. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, and indeed, I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I thought I'd trot around about 5, if that would suit you.
Oh, perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the carter. A most hard-working man.
I don't see much fun in being christened with other babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably. And now, my dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude into your house of sorrow any longer. I would beg you merely not to be bowed down too much by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, I'm so glad to see you back. Oh, but what horrid clothes you have on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child!
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? Too unhappy? You look as though you have a toothache, and I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother. Your brother, Ernest. He arrived about a half an hour ago.
That is nonsense. I don't have a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings!
After you'd already resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
Brother, the time. I don't know what this all means. This is perfectly absurd. Oh, good heavens.
Brother John! I have come down from town to tell you that I am very sorry for all the trouble I have given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think he's going down to be disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Of course, I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say I think Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I have come here.
Oh, Uncle Jack, do be nice. There's some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, who he goes to visit so often. And surely there must be much good in one who's kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
He's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about Mr. Bunbury and his poor state of health.
I won't have him talking about Bunbury or anything else. It's not to drive one frantic.
Uncle Jack, if you do not shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Then it is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? Perhaps we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily would come with us.
Oh, certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
I feel very happy.
room next to yours. I suppose that is all right.
What?
Mr. Earnest's luggage, I've unpacked it and put it in a room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a rather large lonesome basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart. Ernest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
Well, I haven't heard anyone call me back.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the slightest.
I quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You will not talk of Miss Cardew that way. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go up and change? It is absurd to be in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying at your house for an entire week as a guest. I call it grotesque.
Well, you aren't staying with me for an entire week or as a guest or anything else. You have got to go by the 4-5 train.
Well, I wouldn't leave you so long as you were in mourning. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, wouldn't you? I would think it most unkind of you if you didn't.
Will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I've never seen anyone take so long to change with such little result.
It is better than being always overly dressed as you are.
If I'm occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Algy, your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage. Your presence in my garden absurd. However, you have got to go by the 4-5 train. I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. There she is.